Hey everyone, Nubkeks here, and welcome to a Heroes of the Storm update video. We now have full details on Garrosh, on his abilities, what they look like, what they do, and all of his talents as well, what they look like and what they do. So I'm going to guide you through every single thing in this particular video. I'm going to use Hero's Heart for the talents, and yeah, we'll come up with like something of a build and see what we think of it and get a bit of an idea for how we're going to play Garrosh when he comes out on the PTR. Okay, so Garrosh, his role is a warrior. This is Inven Global, by the way, and they published an article with all of his abilities on it as well. He's a warrior, and he is designed to be a solo tank, which is really, really cool. His trait is called Armor Up, and this makes Garrosh gain 1 armor for every 2% of maximum health that he is missing. Now, one of the crucial things about this, we'll see several talents will interact with this when you have over 25 armor, which is at the 50% HP mark. Once you're below half HP, you've got 25 or more armor, which is really useful. And this is just generalized armor, by the way, too. It's not physical armor, it's not spell armor, it's just armor. So it reduces damage from both of those sources. Max HP damage, of course, is a special source of damage. So things like Tychus' minigun, Malthiel's Reaper's Mark. Percentage HP damage just does percentage HP damage always. Giant Killer as well. It just always works. Armor doesn't affect that at all. Basically what this trait means is, well, obviously, you know, the lower his life, the harder he is to kill to a certain extent. Big deal about this, really, in terms of team play and in terms of Garrosh himself, is that your healing that you give to Garrosh gets more value if he's on lower life, right? Because if you're, let's say, from 100% life to 90% life for Garrosh, you've got very little armor, you've got almost none. So, you know, all the damage you take is full damage. Whereas, let's say between 30% and 20% life, you're going to be taking vastly reduced damage whenever you take some. So every point of healing that you give back to him at those stages is actually going to be worth more. So that adds a very interesting dynamic to Garrosh, where kind of like Zul'jin, you know, keeping him at lower life, he actually gets a bit more value. Abilities like Ancestral will be pretty damn good on him as well. Shields on low life will be very powerful, so we can expect things like that to have a big impact. I actually want to jump to basic abilities. I want to jump to one called Bloodthirst first, which is on his W. So this is just a relatively simple attack. You do 156 damage to an enemy. Obviously this stuff will scale. The big deal here is that you heal Garrosh for 10% of his missing health, and healing's increased by 100% against heroes, and it's got a 12-second cooldown. So again, this ties in very much to his trait. And then just the fact that it's healing you for a chunk of your missing health. It's not just flat healing, but it's missing HP. It's increased against heroes. And then, of course, like I already said, every point of healing that you get at lower health because you got more armor is actually worth more. So very interesting that Garrosh becomes quite a bit more dangerous when he's at lower HP, because not only is he getting value from his trait, but also his heal gets more powerful, and then his heal gets more powerful in synergy with his trait as well. So that stuff all combines to have a pretty big impact, I think. And it'd be interesting to check out the talents and see what ones will interact with that as well. His Q is called Groundbreaker. This is a conal attack. And it does a little bit of damage to enemies in an area. Now, on the very, very outer edge of this cone, if you hit heroes there, they'll be pulled basically into melee range of Garrosh. It'll be interesting to figure out just how much of a cast time it is, just how forgiving that hitbox is when we actually get to try it in game. But it does seem like a very powerful ability. It's got an 8-second cooldown. There'll be a little bit of a learning curve when you first pick up Garrosh, but then once you get the hang of it, once you get into the rhythm of hitting people at the edge of that ability, it's going to be very, very powerful indeed. His final basic ability is called Wrecking Ball. This is his E. This is a new mechanic in the game, which is to basically throw an enemy hero. So you've got a radius around Garrosh, basically, roughly speaking, melee range. When you press E, you will grab the nearest enemy hero. It'll also grab the nearest minion or mercenary if they're there. And I don't know if it prioritizes heroes. I think it's just the nearest, my alarm's going off. The nearest thing to Garrosh. You will grab it, and then you can throw it, and you can target the location to which you're going to throw it. So you can grab an enemy hero, and you can throw them behind you. You can grab an enemy hero, you can just throw them away. So, for example, you might combo this with Groundbreaker, your Q, which pulls people in. You might like grab I think in the hero spotlight it showed Kel'Thuz, you know, you grab Kel'Thuz, pull him close to you, then you grab him with Wrecking Ball and throw him behind you. He's way out of position, he dies. You could also do it for things like, okay, let's say Malthael teleports in and pops Reaper Souls, Tormented Souls, and starts doing all of that AoE stuff. You just be like, yeah, no, actually, I don't really want to deal with that. Grab him with Wrecking Ball and throw him away. There's also a talent we'll see soon, which makes this, you can use this to throw allied heroes. So in that case, you could, for example, throw an allied hero into the fray, like Malthael, or alternatively, you could throw someone out of the fray if they're going to be in a rough spot and taking lots of damage. The cooldown on this is 16 seconds, so it's a very, very big cooldown, very substantial cooldown. Interesting to note that it does, of course, sync up with every second Groundbreaker. So if you use Groundbreaker on cooldown, you'll get one with Wrecking Ball, then you get a Groundbreaker just on its own, then you're going to get another Groundbreaker Wrecking Ball combo. So those do synergize quite well together. Also worth noting that Wrecking Ball does some damage to enemies near the impact and slows them by 30% for 2.5 seconds. So you have another aspect of gameplay, which is we throw a hero into the enemy heroes. For his heroics, we have Warlord's Challenge, which silences nearby enemy heroes and forces them to attack Garrosh for 1.5 seconds. It's basically AoE variant taunt. It's a 50-second cooldown, so it's kind of a fairly short length. But yeah, this is an interesting one. This is a very interesting one. I'm not actually sure what to make of this. Obviously, it's a little bit of a bigger impact. You see both of his heroics have very short cooldowns, actually. So that definitely adds an interesting aspect to Garrosh's kit, because it's not like a choice between a short cooldown, frequent impact ability really, and then a very long cooldown that has a very big impact. It's kind of like, okay, do I want this, a thing that's up for every team fight realistically, and can be used for ganks and stuff like that, which is kind of any cooldown below 60 seconds. I'd say any heroic below 60 seconds, you can use very frequently. Whereas let's say a cooldown that's 100 seconds, it's like, okay, kind of need to save this for a giant team fight or for the objective. With a 60-second or less cooldown, it's kind of like just go use it whenever you want. So you kind of get that Warlord's Challenge. So that could be very powerful for ganking, you know. Definitely, it'd be interesting to see the range on this and how it can set up Wrecking Ball. But it could be pretty damn powerful to set up, you know, a CC combo. And he's got a lot of CC. You know, if you hit the pullback, hit Wrecking Ball, you hit Warlord's Challenge, it is a lot of CC lockdown displacement to bring against heroes. So that's pretty crazy pick and gank potential from Garrosh. His second one is called Decimate. This is like an AoE cleave attack. You do 50 damage to nearby enemies and you slow them by 30% for 1.5 seconds. Does double damage to heroes. Each hero hit reduces the cooldown by 1 second and it stores 3 charges. So this is a pretty big deal. This could add up to a lot of damage with Garrosh in the middle of the team. So it has an 8-second cooldown by default. If you hit 5 heroes, 3-second cooldown. It's pretty good, right? I mean, if let's say realistically hitting 3 heroes, that's still 3 seconds off the cooldown. So every 5 seconds you can do this spin, which is going to do a reasonable amount of damage and then a small slow to everyone in range that you hit, which is pretty good. You can also store up to 3 charges, so you can really, like, it's a little bit of extra burst damage. You know, you can use it for the slow. It seems like a pretty nice heroic as well. So it's going to be very interesting to try out the 2 in combo. They both seem very good, to be honest with you. So yeah, kind of like the design there. Okay, now we're over on Heroes Hearth and let's take a look at all of the talents. So we'll go through each tier. We'll see the idea behind each tier and then we could make a talent build. So for example, well, hey, quite obviously, there's a Wrecking Ball talent on multiple tiers, so we can potentially make a build for that. But let's take a look and see what they have on each tier. So in tier 1, our first talent is called Warbreaker. This is a quest to pull heroes with Groundbreaker. It's got 2 rewards, right? Hang on, no, it's just got 1 reward. Oh, no, it's got 2. After the first reward is after you've pulled 5 heroes, Groundbreaker deals an additional 150 damage over 3 seconds to heroes. So it just adds a nice extra damage bonus to that. I mean, by default, it's 81 damage. So, you know, you're doing an extra 200% damage basically as a small little dot whenever you pull heroes. And specifically it's, actually, no, it's just whenever it does damage to heroes. So it will affect all heroes. So a nice little damage boost. Probably, it's still small, but it's something. Then after pulling 15 heroes, this is a pretty big deal. It reduces Groundbreaker's cooldown by 3 seconds. So you're going to be able to pull people a lot more often. Now, of course, as we said, you know, this does synergize with Wrecking Ball, so it's not going to synergize quite as well, though. With a 5-second cooldown, you get, obviously, first Groundbreaker plus Wrecking Ball. Then you're going to get, you know, the Groundbreaker at 10 seconds, So you'll get an extra one off, right? You get one, so you get the first Groundbreaker plus the Wrecking Ball one. Then 5 seconds later you get another one. 10 seconds later you get another one. 15 seconds later you get Groundbreaker. 1 second later you can combo it with Wrecking Ball. Basically during the cast time it shouldn't really be an issue. So you basically get an additional Groundbreaker off within your E rotation, as it were. So it's pretty substantial and just making it more useful in general. So that seems pretty good. Unrivaled Strength then is our second option here, which increases Wrecking Ball's throw range by 20% and its damage by 100%. Again, like the damage, it's relatively low. You're going to get an extra 90 damage and that obviously scales up. It's a relatively small amount of damage, but it is AoE, so you know that's always something to bear in mind as well. The bigger thing here, of course, will be the increased throw range for displacing people or for removing them, you know, just removing them from the fight or putting them out of position. So that could be very, very powerful. Obviously, again, like I would say, Malthael is a good example. If he has used his W cooldown, if he's used his what is it called? Reaper's Strike or something? You know, the one where he teleports to someone that has Reaper's Mark on them. If he teleports in and pops Tormented Souls, you throw him out. Hey, he's not in the fight for, you know, he doesn't have, that's a 5-second cooldown. Tormented Souls lasts 4 seconds. Yeah, sorry, Malthael, you know, you got no value out of your heroic. Or, you know, like Butcher charges in. You're just like, yeah, no, get out. I'm just going to throw you right back out again. So it could be very, very good at enemies that have like hard initiation, but then don't have any, you know, re-initiation, you know? Like they can get on top of your team and they can do loads of damage, but they got a cooldown around that. They can't just hop straight back in and you can kind of just ruin their engagement. That could be really nice. And that could be very strong in general. I could see this one being very, very good, but we shall see. The other option is called Body Check, and this is a pretty cool one because this is an extra activatable ability, which is you activate it, you do 111 damage to a target enemy, you slow them by 30% for 3 seconds, which is a pretty long time, and damage is increased by 200% if Armor Up's current bonus, and the slow amount is increased by 30% if Armor Up's bonus is above 25. So while you are below, I think we might actually, can we find the cooldown here? It doesn't have the cooldown here for this. Interesting. It's probably fairly high, something like 30 seconds, I would think, at least. But yeah, this looks pretty damn powerful. Okay, so again, the Armor Up's bonus, 25. Bear in mind that's when you're below half health. So once you're below 50% HP, this is a 3-second 60% slow, which is massive. That's really good. It's going to do 200% if Armor Up's current bonus. So again, that's a relatively small amount. You know, again, like if you're at half HP, that's going to be, you know, an extra 50 damage, which isn't that much, really. But still, that's not too bad. I mean, it's something. The main deal here is this is a pretty powerful slow, and it's an extra activatable ability, so it's like kind of guaranteed burst, guaranteed slow. It just adds more to that CC chain. So yeah, I mean, looking at level 1, I mean, all of these things look pretty damn good. You've got a lot of extra CC built into tier 1, and that's kind of what it's about. I would guess that probably Body Check, and there's more talents for Body Check. Like this is a Body Check talent, and so are these, and so is this. No, this is not. Okay, the icon's a bit weird. That's not either. Okay. I was pretty sure there was more Body Check ones. This is a Body Check talent. There's supposed to be more. We'll find out what they are. But yeah, needless to say, I mean, an extra activatable ability could be very powerful, but I could see all of these being very good. I could see all of these being very good. We'll see what talents synergize with Body Check. And let's go do that now. Let's take a look at the next tier. Okay, so tier number 4, we've got, again, 3 talents here. The first one is called In for the Kill. This increases Bloodthirst damage against non-heroes by 60%, and killing enemies with Bloodthirst resets its cooldown and refunds its mana cost. So Bloodthirst is, you know, your W, 12-second cooldown, does a reasonable chunk of damage, and will heal you for 10% if you're missing HP. The healing is increased against heroes. So this will make it do more damage to minions and you know, mercenaries, monsters, that sort of stuff. And killing enemies basically gives you a full refund. It seems okay. It'd be very interesting to see what his wave clear is like. It's probably not very important. You know, like, you can very easily pick a tank that's got terrible wave clear and not really worry about it. It's not really a tank's job, usually, to do I mean, obviously, if you're Johanna, that's something very useful you bring to the team. But then you can also be someone like Muradin, who's got almost none, and that's okay. It's not really a problem, usually. So I don't see this one. This doesn't strike me as being too good. but perhaps it is. I mean, obviously you've got that initially, you look at it and go, there's definitely, a Kerrigan-esque vibe to this of just bloodthirsting through the entire shrine on Infernal Shrines. So that is something that stands out to me, is maybe that will work. I'll have to see just how much the bloodthirst damage actually adds up to as we go through it, and whether they get an icon on their head to indicate that you will get the reset. It could be okay, I don't know. Certainly like just, it seems to add wave clear, and I don't know that wave clear is that important. And also thinking like the resets to heal you up, I mean, bearing in mind it's healing you for your missing health, so that every reset you get is going to heal you for less and less and less. And it's, I mean, maybe, it's unlikely you're going to solo lane, but perhaps you will, and that could work in that case, I don't know. Thirst for Battle is your other option. This is basic attacks against heroes, reduce the cooldown of Bloodthirst by 2 seconds. This one seems more useful. This one seems pretty good. Bloodthirst is a fairly substantial cooldown, and certainly, to get multiple rotations of that in a team fight could be a little bit of a challenge. Thirst for Battle will really help you with doing that. Will really help you with spending that a bit more aggressively, as opposed to being like, oh, I don't really want to burn Bloodthirst now for extra damage and some healing because I'm at 70% health, and if they turn around and they start bursting me, I might not have this back up, and my healers might need to blow a really powerful cooldown to save me here, whereas Bloodthirst would help mitigate that somewhat. Thirst for Battle will help you do that more often and be more sustained. This looks pretty good to me, and especially because this is doing more healing against heroes anyway. The other option is Indomitable, which will give you Unstoppable for 1.5 seconds. This is really powerful as well. This is really, really powerful too. I think this is your trait button. Oh, this one is your trait button. So this is just an extra ability button, but that's obviously very strong. It's effectively, it's something of a self-cleanse, but you can't cleanse out of stuff. I don't think you have to pre-cleanse stuff, but that's still pretty good. So again, this will obviously depend on whether they have CC that matters that you can dodge, that you'll want to dodge. Could be good in that sense. So yeah, this tier is pretty damn interesting. I mean, I'm not really sure which one's going to be which. Again, I would say for the highest levels of play, I'm kind of looking at Body Check and Indomitable so far. But I can easily see Indomitable being switched out, just simply if they don't have CC that's really worth blocking, or if it's too difficult to block. Thirst for Battle is going to give you an immense amount of sustain during the team fights. That could be very, very strong. So I might even lean towards that one a bit more myself. And I'll have to see how this one actually works on particular maps. Like how much use do you actually get use of that against minions and stuff and monsters over the course of a game. Be curious. We shall see. Tier 7, we got a lot of options here. First option is Intimidation. Groundbreaker reduces the attack speed of heroes hit by 40% for 4 seconds. That is obviously a huge deal. That is obviously a huge deal, particularly obviously against like melee heroes that you can hit with Groundbreaker fairly reliably. I mean, bear in mind with Garrosh, you don't have any gap closers, right? So you're just walking around. You've got your Groundbreaker to close the gaps, and you can throw people away, but you don't really have much engagement yourself. So, a ranged hero, someone like Vala, will be able to probably kite you around and not be hit by this at all. But someone like, the Butcher, or even like an Artanis or something, a hero that is in melee and does rely on attack speed and can be hit by Groundbreaker fairly consistently, it's going to have a pretty tough time actually dealing with this. So that's a pretty cool talent. That's very strong. This tier I think is probably pretty strong overall. Brute Force then, enemies hit by Body Check receive 50% reduced healing for 4 seconds. So that is also relatively interesting. I'm not sure about this one, but it's very interesting. I mean, bearing in mind, it's a 16-second cooldown, which is pretty long. But 4 seconds half healing is also pretty decent. I'm just not sure how useful you're going to find that, as opposed to just simply flinging someone out of position, which will probably be more useful in general. Because I'm not sure. I feel like you're more likely to use Wrecking Ball more on cooldown. Like saving it up to try to block some actual significant healing seems a bit wonky, but perhaps in some circumstances. But I'm not leaning towards this one as much as this. Now this one also looks insanely good. This is one that stood out to me as being like, whoa, okay, this probably will be nerfed. This is called Oppressor. Basic attacks against heroes reduce their spell power by 40% for 2.5 seconds. That's a massive amount. Now again, obviously the issue with Garrosh is that you're gonna be kited around. He's got no mobility. Well, I suppose you got the slow with Decimate and you've got the challenge, but realistically, I mean, you're not gonna be able to get this off consistently against backline heroes. However, plenty of melee heroes, plenty of tanks, plenty of bruisers, plenty of those heroes do lots of spell damage. Most heroes do a lot of spell damage. You'd be surprised. It's a pretty big deal. I mean, for example, let's say Ragnaros. Ragnaros is in the front. Oh, hey, you've got a presser. Pretty easy to hit him with that, and then suddenly his all of his spells do 40% less damage every time you basic attack him. 2.5 seconds. That's really strong. That's really strong. I mean, yeah, just that adds up to quite a lot. That adds up to quite a lot of just 40% less damage for the most part, from heroes that you're hitting in melee, which is a pretty big deal. So I could see Oppressor being very, very powerful. Again, it's going to somewhat depend on will the heroes I'm able to hit, does it matter? But oftentimes it does. There's a lot of melee heroes that do a lot of ability damage. I mean, think about them like Alarak, Kerrigan, Ragnaros, Thrall. I mean, there's a lot that do a lot of ability damage, and reducing that's going to be pretty effective. Now, the final option is called Into the Fray, and this lets you throw a nearby ally. You give them 25 armor for 3 seconds. It does the same damage and slow on impact to enemies, and they're unstoppable. Okay, so this is very similar, of course, to Wrecking Ball. The big difference is that you throw an ally. It will give them some armor, and it will make them unstoppable while they're being thrown. So you can use it to, well, it's called Into the Fray. You could also be technically called Out of the Fray, because you could throw someone out, give them unstoppable, just be like, yeah, yoink, out you go. Sorry, let's save you. So that's a good option there. Or to do a big engage with, again, someone like Malthael, obviously, would work pretty well. So yeah, I mean, that's a pretty cool thing as well. That could be very, very good. So far, I'm leaning towards something like this, and this. This seems pretty decent. But I don't know. Into the Fray also seems pretty good. I mean, I'm really not sure on these talent tiers. I could see a lot of these different options being good, for sure. And level 10, of course, we've got the Warlord's Challenge, and we've got Decimate. Again, I have no idea which one is going to be the strongest. They both seem very good. I don't know. Let's say Warlord's Challenge for now. We've already covered those. Don't need to worry about them. Let's look at tier 13 then. Okay, so we've got defensive measures. Pulling a hero with Groundbreaker grants Garrosh a 350 point shield for 6 seconds. That's a pretty damn big shield. And this actually looks really, I mean, there's definitely a very nice, yeah, this is Groundbreaker. There's a very nice Groundbreaker build. Like, damn, this is Groundbreaker 2, isn't it? Oh, wow, yeah, okay. There's a very nice Groundbreaker build as well. Again, like, bearing in mind what I said about shields, you know? Shields are gonna be very powerful on Garrosh because he's got armor. So that's already a fairly substantial shield, and that scales, presumably scales, with levels. So that's a pretty big deal. And that also gets more value because of his trait. And also, if you get the cooldown reduction on Groundbreaker, that's a big shield every 5 seconds that will just naturally scale with the armor that he has. That's a pretty big deal. The other option here is Blood Praise. When hitting a hero, Bloodthirst heals for an additional 10% of Garrosh's maximum health over 3 seconds. That's also insane. Holy shit. Okay, there we go. We're going to grab that one. I think that has to be so good with Thirst for Battle. We'll come back to that in a second. Or then Double Up. Armor Up can be activated to increase its armor bonus by 100% for 3 seconds. That's also insane. This talent tier is really powerful. Holy crap, that's a huge power spike for Garrosh. Okay, so number 1, we've got just a big shield, which is consistent, reliable health whenever you use Groundbreaker. You just have to hit, okay, you need to pull a hero. So you do need to pull a hero. So that will somewhat limit the consistency. You need to be spot on with hitting that. But when you do hit it, that's a big shield. And again, the shield is great with your armor. Blood Praise is really good as well. So whenever you hit a hero with your Bloodthirst, which is exactly what you're going to do, it's going to give you just 10% max HP healed, which is pretty nice. That's just guaranteed, which is great. That synergizes, of course, with Thirst for Battle. You're getting Bloodthirst off more often. So, yeah, I mean, like, the heal is bigger than the Bloodthirst heal can ever be, because you're never going to be missing 100% of your health to get 10% back. So that's a pretty big deal. And then Double Up, that's just, I'm not sure what the cooldown on this is, but that's a whole bunch of, like, burst tankiness and such. So that is really, really good as well. Yeah, I'm pretty damn impressed by that. Over on 16 then. So I'm going to say this one for now, but I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. Let's go for Decimate. Let's go for like a damage build, damage Garrosh build. We're gonna like charge in, CC people. Oh, we'll go for Warlord's Challenge. It's got a cooler icon. Rawr, looks more awesome. So yeah, we're just gonna go in, we're gonna smack people around basic attacks and heal ourselves loads. That's basically the idea. Level 16, Rough Landing. Heroes pulled by Groundbreaker are slowed by 50% for 3 seconds. That's also very strong. Mortal Combo. If Wrecking Ball is used on a hero within 2 seconds of pulling them with Groundbreaker, the cooldown is reduced by 10 seconds. So from a 16-second cooldown to a 6-second cooldown. That is also amazing. And then Earthshaker. Wrecking Ball stuns enemies near the impact area for 0.75 seconds. That's also very, very good. These all seem very, very good. Mortal Combo, maybe. Now, obviously, these don't actually synergize with the build we've already had, because they're two are focused on Wrecking Ball, then one's Groundbreaker. So obviously, like, Warbreaker synergizes very nicely with 2 of these. Then any of your other talents synergize very well with both of these. So yeah, a basic attack build is not going to work as well here, but these all seem pretty damn good. Like, that's a very big slow. That's nice cooldown reduction. The stun, that's again for more aggressive use of Wrecking Ball. So it's going to depend on what sort of comp you've set up. So if you got something of a dive comp, which I don't know if you actually will with Garrosh, maybe built around Into the Fray, but I'm not sure about that. But if you do, Earthshaker could be really good if there's stuff you want to interrupt. I mean, or just flinging their front line into their back line, something like that could be pretty damn nice. Having it up more, I'm not really sure what's going to be good here, but they all seem quite nice. But yeah, there you go. Okay, level 20 then, we've got Death Wish. Increases the duration of Warlord's Challenge by half a second. If an enemy hero is killed while affected, its cooldown is reduced by 45 seconds. So that's from, yeah, 50 seconds to 5-second cooldown. That's very good if you get the reset. Difficult enough to get the reset. You might even want to do that intentionally. That does seem very powerful though. The extra half a second is decent enough. I'm just curious how easy it will be to actually get the reset. But man, if you get the reset, that's that's a 2-second AoE taunt. Combo to the 2-second AoE taunt. Have to see the range on that. But if the range is big enough, it could well be worth going for the reset, and that could just win the game. That seems really strong, actually, when I think about it. Deadly Cam. Heroes hit by Decimate deal 20% less damage for 3 seconds. That's also very strong. That's like a big AoE around you, just 20% less damage that you can have up pretty consistently. That's very good too. Titanic Might. Wrecking Ball now throws the 2 closest enemies. That could be okay. For sure. Probably doubles up the damage and all that as well. I don't know if it doubles the slow. It probably does too. Have to see. I mean, maybe. Doesn't seem as consistent useful as those, but we'll see. Or then Inner Rage. Body check gains an additional charge as cooldown recharges 100% faster while you're below half HP. Oh yeah, that seems very nice as well. Again, we have to see the cooldown for body check, but having 2 charges of that, and then it's just super powerful below, that could be very good as well. Interesting. Oh, also worth noting, Double Up will obviously synergize with this. Very much so. Double Up doubles your armor bonus, which means that you can trigger the bonuses for body check at lower than 25 armor. So that's a pretty big deal. Interesting. Okay, so I'm going to go into this. I'm going to say my initial testing build for Garrosh is probably going to be body check, Thirst for Battle, Oppressor, I think Warlord's Challenge. I think I'm going to try out Blood Craze first of all, then probably Mortal Combo, and then I'm going to try out Death Wish, and we're going to see how that goes. Then I'll probably switch it up a bit more. But yeah, I could see a variety of builds with Garrosh. The talents look really good. I like them a lot, and I think this hero looks like a lot of fun. So cannot wait to play him. Guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and found all this stuff interesting. Check back, probably be next Monday. The PTR will be live and I will have videos for Garrosh up that day. Let me know the stuff that you would like to see as well. And yeah, I will talk to you all very, very soon. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.